Listen, I am not nice, I am not kind, and I am not wonderful.
12 disturbing but kind of hilarious He-Man villains. Complete backstories explained. He-Man and the Masters of the Universe was one of the defining products of the 80s. This show was extremely popular and influential among kids, and as a cartoon, it broke the convention that animated shows cannot be successful on weekday slots. The pro-social message in the narrative, the action-packed drama, and the titular gallant hero all combined to make something that captivated an entire generation. However, it all started from the quest to give a toy a suitable backstory. The kids had no idea who the good guys and who the baddies were. And without a nice story, they wouldn't know how to play with those characters. Our beloved childhood show has come a long way since then. And currently, we are waiting for the Masters of the Universe live-action movie with bated breath. The worldwide pandemic and subsequent lockdowns have dealt a blow to the production process, which has already been going on for years. Several directors have come and gone, and the project has changed hands faster than a $10 bill in a market. With the superhero craze striking a chord with audiences of late, the well-written He-Man lore might just pave the way for a blockbuster. Although, there was a previous unsuccessful attempt to turn this show into a film in 1987. In this video, we will go over a quick insight into some of the dreaded villains of the He-Man universe, as you wait to see these terrifying baddies in action on the big screen soon.
Before we get into the explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click from you, but it means a lot to us. Thank you. Let's begin.
Call me STINKOR!
STINKOR. STINKOR is probably the most bizarre villain in the He-Man franchise, and is often referred to as the evil master of odors. His superpower is the ability to release a toxic smell from his body at will, the stench being so powerful that it makes the enemy immobile.
The sweet smell of victory.
He is more like a humanoid skunk, who is totally dependent on this single power. We got to know about his origin in the 2002 version of the He-Man cartoon, and we learned that he was originally a thief named Odyphus. Unlike many other mighty villains in this list, STINKOR isn't exactly all that powerful. In fact, he has no super strength or magical powers besides the unique odoriferous one. It is interesting to note that STINKOR can't stand his own stench either and had to wear an oxygen mask at all times. He helped SKELETOR in his attacks against He-Man, and despite his failure, SKELETOR was impressed with this character's strange ability. The story hardly focused on him, and he had very few fans, having been a quirky addition to the long list of toys and characters thrown into the franchise. We don't know if this was a stroke of luck or pure genius, but somehow the toy makers managed to make the toy version smell strange in real life. It is believed that the plastic used in the toy was mixed with patchouli oil, and the smell lingered on for a very long time. Toy collectors have said that even after 20 to 30 years, the smell did not wear off. Faker. As is the case with many characters in this series, there are various interpretations of Faker throughout it. The blue-skinned evil replica of He-Man is a robotic accomplice to SKELETOR. However, the cartoon version showed him as a magical creature and not as a robot.
Put me down!
This is one of the first characters to be manufactured for the toy line, and the toy came with a sticker to show his inner robotic workings. The idea behind Faker was to have an antagonist who could duplicate the powers of He-Man and mislead the people of Eternia. There are times when Skeletor uses Faker to impersonate He-Man and distract King Randor from discovering the secret of Keldor. However, Randor doesn't fall for the deception, and soon, Faker is impaled on his spear. He looked exactly like He-Man and even had the exact same haircut. Basically, Faker was like a blue-skinned He-Man, a fact reflected by the toy version of the character, who also had Skeletor's armor. Faker had a rather small amount of screen time in the cartoon, and Skeletor created him out of nowhere. We often wondered why he didn't create many more of these lookalikes to trouble He-Man. In other franchises, we have admired Superman's evil counterpart Bizarro, and the Mirror Universe in Star Trek, so this wasn't the weirdest concept. The idea of having an exact evil replica worked wonders with the audience and added an extra punch to the story. The action figures from the second release in 1987 are now extreme rarities, and on eBay, the mint condition version of Faker can fetch a ridiculously high price.
Come on, you beasts. We've got work to do.
Beast-Man. Fans of He-Man will be well aware of the multiple versions of this character that exist. From cartoons to comics to live-action movies, Beast-Man varies quite drastically in these different versions. In some, he is portrayed as a deadly antagonist, and others just make a fool out of him. According to one interpretation, Beast-Man came to Eternia from Earth on the very same rocket that was carrying Marlena Glenn, who was He-Man's future mother. Another story states him to be Raquel Raquel, which creates quite an interesting storyline. A common feature in all these plots is that he can control animals at will.
I'm still Beast-Man, right? The master of all the animals, right?
As you know, Eternia is filled with dreaded monsters and creatures, and the ability to control them makes Beast-Man a formidable enemy. The toy version was pretty remarkable, coming with removable armor and the string whip. Beast-Man is an important figure in the comic books, where he is seen as one of the most loyal followers of Skeletor. He could summon the most ferocious animals to aid Skeletor, but his cartoon appearance was toned down, making him a more comical character to suit the desires of the viewers. Here, he is shown as someone who doesn't like being bossed around, and is even expelled from Skeletor's crew as a result.
I beg you, don't send me away from Snake Mountain.
Throughout the series, Beast-Man remained a regular character, and one of his most iconic moments was when he set out to capture King Randor, all by himself, and almost succeeded. He is also featured in the 1987 live-action movie, where Tony Carroll played the role. The film, however, did not mention his ability to control animals.
MER-MAN, O Lord of Water, Master of Fish, Lakes and Streams, return to Snake Mountain!
MER-MAN. When Mattel released the first series of action figures for Masters of the Universe, MER-MAN was one of the characters included. He was second only to Beast-Man and served Skeletor as a trusted accomplice. He is the king of a group of strange amphibious humanoid beings that inhabit the oceans of Eternia. In fact, some of the versions of his origin story go so far ahead as to hail him as the lord of everything under the sea. He is also the ruler of Snake Mountain and is constantly seen fighting it out with He-Man and the other heroes in the series. MER-MAN has a bizarre physical appearance, with his green skin, the texture of which resembles that of fish scales. His bulbous eyes were also reminiscent of a fish, and he had a wide, fang-filled mouth. His webbed feet and hands, along with the fins on either side of his head, added to his strange look. Even his armor was made of fish hide. However, don't be fooled by this grotesque appearance. the muscular humanoid, is quite lethal with his yellow sword. MER-MAN is amphibious, and while his physical strength is not on par with He-Man, he is freakishly strong. He can telepathically control the life forms in the sea, and his sword can emit a kind of freeze ray, which encases his enemies in ice. He was certainly one of the toughest opponents that He-Man had to face in his fight against Skeletor.
Don't move, Trapjaw!
Trapjaw. Initially, the Masters of the Universe toy line had 7 action figures. Trapjaw was the first new addition to the original line, and was apparently inspired by the character of Jaws from Moonraker and The Spy Who Loved Me. He also bears some resemblance to the character of Ironjaw, who was part of one of the earlier toy lines released by Mattel. Trapjaw, a deadly cyborg with a lethal bite, was a member of the notorious group, the Evil Warriors. He had sharp jaws and a robotic arm that could be used to launch various weapons. His wide array of weapons included a hook, saw blade, lasertron, claw, flamethrower, and many others. While he is seen as a minion of Skeletor, his origin story showed him to be much more than just a corny sidekick. The mini-comics series portrayed him as a maniacal mass murderer, though naturally, the character had to be toned down for the cartoon. Trapjaw has appeared multiple times as a villain in the series, and we remember him for being a loyal warrior, fighting for Skeletor. One of the storylines shows him as a thief named Cronus, who challenged Skeletor's tyrannical rule. However, he was banished for his protest, and when he raised an army to fight Skeletor, the rebellion was crushed. After his defeat, Skeletor had him repaired and has since used him as a powerful weapon against his enemies. The 2002 relaunch of the series saw veteran actor Paul Dobson lend his voice to the character, and it is the voice that stuck with the fans.
Who are you?
A friend. I've been tracking him. He's been scouting you out for an attack.
Although Trapjaw was not part of the movie, another cyborg character named Sarad was clearly inspired by him.
Someone I can trust. Henceforth, you, Xanthor, shall travel at my side.
ZODAC. We have included ZODAC in the list of villains in the He-Man series, but he is more of a cosmic enforcer, who took a neutral stance in the fight between good and evil. However, this was a fairly complicated concept for a storyline that was aimed towards children, and so they made him into an evil cosmic enforcer.
My thanks, ZODAC, for coming so quickly.
With the fate of Eternia's champion at stake,
He is a human, but has clawed feet, which is a characteristic shared amongst almost all the evil characters in the series. In the cartoon, ZODAC is portrayed as someone who tries to maintain peace in the universe. He doesn't have any relations with Skeletor, and is often mistaken for one of the good guys. However, if you hold an action figure, it would give you an entirely different story.
in today's story, He-Man came to the aid of a planet whose natural resources were being...
It is later revealed that ZODAC was the last remaining member of the Council of the Wise. Skeletor stole the Golden Disc of Knowledge, which became the source of all his power. Basically, ZODAC was supposed to observe the course of events in the universe, including those unfolding in Eternia, without actively interfering. Some versions of the story show him as one of Skeletor's henchmen, but whatever his actual origin, ZODAC was definitely one of the characters that stood out the most in the series.
Sit upon my throne! My throne! I, King Hiss, the true ruler of Eternia.
King Hiss! You wouldn't find this character in the original animated series of Masters of the Universe, because by the time this action figure was made, they had stopped production on the show. However, King Hiss can be seen in the 2002 relaunch, where he is one of the most important antagonists. He is the ruler of the Snake Men, who returned to conquer Eternia after being defeated by HORDAK. The mini-comics in the 80s portrayed the Snake Men as humanoid snakes, and as such, King Hiss looked like a human, but his body was only a disguise for his grotesque form. His upper body was made of 5 intertwined serpents, an image that definitely struck fear in the hearts of viewers.
Teach these snakes a lesson.
King Hiss could unleash the gigantic snake form of Snake Mountain on his enemies, and with his army, he was quite a handful. Ultimately, he was trapped in a timeless dimension alongside his legions of followers, and the power of the Elders was enough to get the better of him. This dimension, called the Void, was deep within Snake Mountain, and a special key was required to free the ones trapped inside. After several centuries and numerous attempts, King Hiss succeeded in escaping from the Void and defeated the mighty forces of Skeletor.
Your death will be a slow and painful one.
His powerful hypnotic skills were good enough to stun He-Man too, and this ruthless monster would eat people alive just for the fun of it. He had some trusted generals in Cobra Khan and Rattler, and was a fine leader guiding the pack of vicious monsters. King Hiss viewed his own species as the master race, and everything else was to be destroyed and imprisoned.
Here, I command He-Man's memory to now disappear.
Skeletor! Skeletor is easily the most powerful and the most important villain in the He-Man universe. He poses a serious threat to Eternia, and his sole objective is to gain the secrets of Castle Grayskull, so that he can become the master of the universe.
At last I have the means to conquer Eternia and crush He-Man once and for all.
Anybody who is powerful enough to stop his mission becomes his enemy, and Skeletor is the greatest opponent to the mighty He-Man. His origin is somewhat mysterious, but it has been hinted that Skeletor was the brother of He-Man's father, King Randor. This evil overlord has a unique bluish skin and a muscular build that stands in testimony to his power. His skull is exposed, and he is usually seen in a purple hood and loincloth. He was trained in black magic by HORDAK, the powerful warlord of the planet Eternia. Later, he betrayed HORDAK. Yes, this ambitious villain is every bit as sinister as you would expect him to be. One of the best portrayals of the character comes from Frank Langella in the 1987 live-action movie, which had been a much darker tone than the animated series. Skeletor often resorts to treachery, a prime example being when he convinced He-Man that he had killed an innocent man, and almost broke his spirits. His mystical powers are incredible, and often he is seen armed with the Havoc Staff, which is like a long pole with a ram's skull at the top, and a crystal ball within it. His encounters with He-Man were fascinating, and such a potent antagonist made things all the more interesting for viewers.
Sorry, but
HORDAK! Someone particularly evil was required to train Skeletor, and HORDAK was just the type of character that makers were looking for. He hailed from the sister planet of Eternia called Eternia, and was the leader of the Horde forces there. HORDAK constantly tried to conquer Eternia in order to regain his place in the galactic Horde army. He is the defective clone of Horde Prime, and there are some memorable interactions between the two.
your performance against the rebellion has been less than admirable. That will soon be changed, Horde Prime!
This character was designed to intimidate and resembles a bat or vampire. The deadly fangs, bat-like ears and nose, and bluish-black hair made him pretty scary. His appearance creates such an illusion that you would think he is well built, but in actual fact, he is pretty thin underneath the armor. His appearance throughout the season are few, but when he does show up, he always has a strong impact on the narrative. HORDAK is not bound by illogical emotions, and is an evil genius who happens to be an expert in technology. He has unshakable control over the entire Horde, and his own laser cannon is quite a devastating weapon. Overall, we have enjoyed some intriguing stories surrounding this baddie, and the fans of He-Man will remember him for his menacing nature.
Stop! What do you want here?
I want you to sleep, young wizard.
EVIL-LYN. This fictional supervillainess made our blood run cold when we were kids. Second in command to Skeletor, this evil witch was skilled in magic. Unlike many other minions serving Skeletor, she was pretty intelligent and secretly harbored plans to usurp her master one day. She wasn't as strong as him, but could generate magic without any instruments. EVIL-LYN wasn't always dependent on Skeletor and could act on her own will. This villain was introduced because the creators realized that they had not really included many female characters. They initially planned her to be some kind of evil warrior goddess, and the end result turned out to be just perfect. The toy figurine had bright yellow skin and a pretty appearance. Whenever Skeletor was away from Snake Mountain, she was left in charge. Skeletor trusted and relied on this fearless and intelligent lady. Her origin is never really made very clear, but we get a hint that she once used to be a scientist from Earth. Her spacecraft crash-landed on Eternia, and her scientific knowledge slowly evolved into an understanding of sorcery. The 1987 live-action flick might have been lacking, but Meg Foster as EVIL-LYN won a few hearts for sure.
I've waited too long for this. Eternia is mine.
Shigora. Most of the villains that we have included in this list either serve Skeletor or are considerably less powerful. That is not the case with Shigora, who is a demon from a separate dimension. He was summoned by Skeletor, who wanted to use the incredible demonic power to defeat He-Man.
Skeletor have brought you here to serve me.
However, Skeletor couldn't control Shigora or dictate terms, and Shigora turned the tables on his summoner, imprisoning everyone from Skeletor to EVIL-LYN and Trapjaw. There was a memorable showdown with He-Man and his fellow warriors when they apprehended Shigora at Snake Mountain, but the demon summoned his minions to fight for him and fled through teleportation. It took something special to get rid of this powerful entity, and Skeletor teamed up with the sorceress to create the spell that was used to summon him in the first place. He was then sucked back into his own dimension, and He-Man had one less mighty villain to deal with. With all the hype around Skeletor, we often forget that there is a villain far more superior, who was luckily disposed of before it was too late.
Time to sleep. Venom Mist. Hey, I can't stay awake.
KOBRA Khan. As the name suggests, KOBRA Khan was a cross between a cobra and a man. He was an integral part of the evil warriors, and his powerful sleep mist could render the strongest of enemies unconscious. He served King Hiss of the Snake Man, and also the Dark Lord Skeletor. The toy incarnation was part of the third wave of action figures to hit the shelves, but it had a rather particular feature. It could spray water from a removable head that could be pushed down. This was meant to replicate the character's ability to spray the sleep mist from his hood.
Not this time.
We still remember the haunting whispers of this character and the hissing voice that made him so striking.
So, you were here the whole time.
That's right, He-Man.
Unlike some of the more dim-witted minions, Khan was a much deeper and darker character. In the 2002 series, which saw the Masters of the Universe relaunched, Cobra Khan's sleep mist was replaced with a deadlier acidic venom. He could even control the intensity of the venom and cause anything from minimal damage to something altogether more severe and permanent. When King Hiss was imprisoned in a portal in Snake Mountain, Cobra Khan tried to free him, but He-Man foiled his effort. He was an effective fighter, consistently giving He-Man and the other heroic warriors a tough time. He is certainly a villain to be taken seriously.
And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.
You lose, Skeletor.